Hello, good morning, and welcome to another newspaper review on Idea Television. A beautiful morning to you. I'm not alone. I'm in the house with my co-hosts, aka Black Coco. Whether you like it or not, you will collect that name.
Well, I have my rights to sue you, so in case I feel like
I have my lawyer. Anytime you're ready to sue me, I have my lawyer.
Okay, no problem. So we'll see in court then.
Yes.
Good morning to you, and also good morning to our viewers. My name is Paul. It's going to be a lovely day today.
Okay, we're going to be diving into our newspaper review quickly. The first newspaper I'm looking at is the Punch newspaper front page, where we see the Nigerian embassies hit on unpaid rents and salaries arrears, in page 3. Beside it in page 2, we see 2027. PDP obedience tackle Wike over Jonathan and Obi. We also see in 28 that Dangote fuel export surge amidst foreign refineries shut down. The big headline, we see that the federal government may seek ECPA's retribution after Finland's 6 years jail term in page 2. We also see that $600 million monthly diaspora remittance proof to reforms federal government has come out to say in page 20. Beneath it in page 42, we see the strike threats as resident doctors give the federal government 10 days ultimatum. We also see in page 5 that 60-year-old man arrested for raping Lagos lady. On page 27, Oyetola blames Wooden's boat as accident claims 92 lives. Moving into the stories of the importers decree, $500 shipping surge on Nigerian bond cargo. We see that the Nigerian importers face a higher cost as French shipping giant CMA and CGM has announced a $500 peak season on containers bound for West Africa. This applies to both dry refining cargoes and Northeast Asia, as well as Southeast Asia, China, Hong Kong, and Micro will take effect on September 15, 2025, as it remains in place until further notice. The new fee is applicable to 20-foot equivalent unit TEU containers under the short-term contract. Now, this is a big foreign shipping company, the CMA and CGM. And from September 15, 2025, every importer, that's anybody that is going to be importers, people who are into the business of importing clothes, cosmetics, and every other thing, you are expected to pay $500. That is 700,000, if I'm not mistaken, Nigerian currency. From now on, when you're importing for every container that should be imported, and this is a big drop off for Nigerian economy, because it's going to affect the price of things in the market. Definitely. Yes. And which already we are complaining of. Nigerians are complaining of the price of goods in the market, and this is another increase.
Well, on the flip side, I would say that it just tells us that it's now time that we need to look more inward and also try to reduce how much we import things and all of that, so that we produce what we need locally and also consume it as well, and it makes things cheaper. And also boils down to the question of making cost of production here in the country also cheaper as well, because we've seen over the years that usually things that are purchased outside the country are more cheaper than what is actually produced in the country. A very good example is the story of the local rice and foreign rice. Local rice, most of the time, is more expensive than the foreign rice, and so people opt to go for the foreign rice. And that's because the cost of production of the local rice is still very expensive. So if we could look for ways to try to reduce the cost of production, and once we're able to reduce the cost of production, then we'll also see reducing cost of locally produced materials. And so we should try our best, actually, to just look into all of that, and then hopefully we see the light.
Okay, also into the story of the resident doctors give federal government 10 days ultimatum over welfare demands. We hear that the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, the NARD, has issued a final 10 days ultimatum to the federal government and relevant agencies to meet welfare demands, warning of a nationwide strike if no action is taken by September 10th, 2025. This decision follows the outcome of an extraordinary National Executive Council meeting after the previous extension failed to yield results. This has become a norm. Strike is now like a norm in Nigeria. Strike not just in the medical field, in education. We've been seeing this strike hit every sector in Nigeria, and they're always hitting on the same reason. The fact that they are not giving paid salaries, or their salaries are not paid in full, or they're not well taken care of, or people do not really see their work as something, or the government, do not really see their work as something important, and they should actually look into those situations like infrastructural development. Doctors have been complaining. The infrastructural development in the medical field is low, is too low. And based on other reformed countries that have moved past so many equipment we are still using in Nigeria. And that's why we see people moving out to take some treatment from outside, because they even trust, to see that fact that people trust, Nigerian citizens trust outside doctors, or will I say hospitals, to our own local hospitals. Some people even trust the private hospitals than the government hospitals. Most people run to government hospitals. It's only because of money or any other thing people run to government hospitals. Most people run to private hospitals because of most of these things that happen.
Well, it's a all very much of slippery slope, and and it just boils down to the story of how we were able to maintain some kind of cultures that we have. Because I was reading some weeks back of how the University Hospital in Ibadan was once a place for medical tourism, where people from across the world would come to be attended to by doctors who were well qualified, and because also they had top-notch equipment. And it's sad that for most of last year, that this same university hospital did not have lights for a very long period of time, as we were owing debt and all of that. But it's really sad to see things like this happen, really, because it shouldn't be things that we should be talking about now in 2025. We should be talking about development, more development here and there. But either way, the strike is not new. But another thing again for me is just that it's not every time that things doesn't go right with us that we should go on strike. Yeah, because that should be like the last option. So usually there is this thing where they say that you confront, consult, then you now something. I really can't remember the 3 C's again of Aluta, really. But it should be in that way. After you have probably made your meeting, take your complaints down to them and let them hear your complaint. If you're not able to reach an agreement, that is when you should even push for things like strike.
So based on...
But I know that people will argue that there has already been an agreement that has not been. But you see, it's just... Go back and remind them first that, there's this agreement that we did first, and then hear what they say before you go on strike and things like that, not just to threaten for strike.
So Nigerian sectors believe that this is the language that the government hears.
Exactly. And also the government also shouldn't be that...
They shouldn't wait till that point.
Exactly. So yeah,
obviously.
It's on both sides, actually. So let's quickly move on to the Vanguard this morning, where we see that terrorism... Federal government CDS also hails ECPA's conviction in Finland, and also the assistant, the Attorney General of the Federation says that we will take further actions against ECPA. That is on page 11 of the Vanguard this morning. Meanwhile, on page 14, we see here that empowerment of bandits, FG attacks El Rufai says that claims is baseless. That's on page 14 of the Vanguard. And on page 20, we see that NNPCL Total Energy seal PSC deal on 2 offshore oil blocks. That's the good news there. And also we see here that Nigerians in South Africa mobilized for Super Eagles against Bafana. That's on page 31 on sports. And also we see here that power-hungry politician seeking to remove Tinubu from the seat. That's what presidency is saying on page 9. Meanwhile, on page 12, we see here that Obi Labour Party condemn election in River local government polls, and also botch agreement resident doctors threaten nationwide strike. That's on page 30. And also on page 9, we see that childhood cancer, as we see that over 400,000 children diagnosed annually. That's a report according to the WHO. And also we see here a picture of the president of Nigeria and also the vice president, with the vice president of Colombia as bid to strengthen the Colombian-Nigerian bilateral relationship. His talks is ongoing. And also we're seeing here on page 5 that Jonathan Tukiyamu and also Odikalu keep off my political journey. Says keep off my, as Jonathan tells them that keep off my political journey, I don't need your counsel. Jonathan 100% qualified for race, says ex-president's cousin. Also he's been deceived. Fielding Obi will spell doom for PDP. That's what Wike says. And also Erufai also notes that calculation about Tinubu is wrong. Also, Nigerians, not APC or PDP, will decide in 2027. That is what article is saying. All of this is on page 5 of the Vanguard this morning. I mean, it's really nice to see that we're trying to strengthen our relationship with several countries. We've done that with Brazil, especially countries in the South Americas. And it's if you trace down to history, you know that in a place like Brazil, for example, we have a number of Nigerian descent there who were taken off through slave and all of that. It's a long story, actually. And there are even some places that are named in a Yoruba-like name, but different pronunciation, but the spelling is actually Yoruba. And also they also have similar cultures with us. They also worship Ifa, just like the Yorubas. They're also doing some parts of Brazil as well. And it's really nice to see that the president is also spreading across the South America, and now we're seeing in Colombia. It's really nice to see. This and that story again that is very interesting, which is also very sad, is that of the childhood cancer, where we have over 400,000 children being diagnosed annually. It's really sad to see things like this happen, actually, and it's so sad that there's no particular cause yet. We can't trace cancer to anything yet, and that is one of the issues we're facing. But it's really sad to see that children are also at risk of disease like cancer at the end of the day.
Okay, so when it comes to traces of cancer, like you said, we've not been able to, but few of the diseases we've had or disease outbreak we've had can actually be traced down to cancer, if not resolved or properly looked into. Yeah. Diseases like the hepatitis. I think we're looking into, should go and watch the hepatitis video again. We're looking into our the hepatitis, and the experts on that particular field actually said that there is a 60% assurance that hepatitis leads to cancer. We've not looked into. Yeah. And you know the funny thing about hepatitis, before I actually had that research on hepatitis fully, before now, I usually used to think it's a very, very small, mild disease, not really important, it's and all of that. But reading into it is like opening your eyes to so many things, and you know that, wow, this is serious. It's as serious as every other disease outbreak that you would hear of. And like I said, it's these diseases, most of them, is it's the senior brothers. When it gets to that stage of leaving the teenhood and adulthood, they now become cancer. So yes, there are other diseases, but we don't have a specific cause of cancer itself. But we have diseases that lead to. So that is a call for the government to look into this disease outbreak. It's very sad to hear that children are suffering from cancer. Not even adults, not teenagers, children.
Young children.
Young children that have not even suffered life itself. They are already suffering from... No, we know what we're talking about. They don't even know what life is. And they're already suffering from cancer. It's a very, very sad information to actually hear. Now looking into the the Blueprint newspaper, we see that Indonesia launches 1.3 million maritime scholarship to West Africa Central, we see that the Indonesian government has approved $1.3 million on maritime training scholarship for the Maritime Organization of West and Central Africa, MOWCA, to enhance the competence for safer and for sailors and instructors in the region. This will fund and train 96 participants across 2 programs, a training of trainers, TOT, based on IMO model course 6.09, and a program for assisting examination and certification of safer following IMO model course in 3.12. Training will occur in 4 batches of 24 participants, with the TOT scheduled for October 11 to 26, 2025, and the certification program from October 18 November to November 30th, 2025. Scholarship will cover tuition, accommodation, transportation, and per diem. This program improves skills, safety, trade efficiency, on global credibility of Nigeria and as well Africa maritime sector, which can translate into higher revenue, jobs, opportunity, and stronger regional integration. Training happens for Africans, mainly in their home institution, organized batches by batches, to focus on improving their skills so that they can work in Africa or international countries as well. When I saw this, I was happy, because on one hand, it shows that there are so many other countries that look at the well-being of other countries.
Yes.
It shows that everybody is in togetherness. That's one. Because this is an Asian country, so I cannot even say it's an African country. This is another continent on its own, and it's looking into every other continent that needs help. On the other hand, we've been speaking on getting Nigeria to the point where we leave aid, getting aid from outside. Just not Nigeria alone, but Africa as a whole. Can we start giving aid? Can we hear stories like Africa, one particular person has gone to the one Asian country to go and provide education, free education for their children in rural areas and all of that? Can we hear those kind of information?
It's very. I don't want to answer that question, but what I would say instead is how this year has actually taught every African, African leaders, or let me say every African leaders a lot of lessons, as regards a lot of pullback from fundings, loss of fundings in several sectors from outside. And in one of the summits that was held on Africa here, it's how it's time for Africa now to look inward and try to stop looking outside for funding, basically, and start looking for ways to fund themselves. And that is where we are at the moment. So it's a whole lot, but it's very, very dicey when to look at it, because we are still very much developing. I'm not sure, but maybe only South Africa actually is one that might still be leading in some sectors, but in the real sense of things, we're still developing. Most of our, I really don't want to go into the deep dive of all of the development sector here in Africa, because it's a whole lot of things to talk about when you talk about food, health, all of these things here and there. It's a whole lot of things to talk about. I guess quickly we'll go on a short break now. Once we return, we'll continue with the newspaper review. We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back. It's still the newspaper review here on Nigeria TV. It's a lovely morning, and we've talked about the page, the Punch newspaper, and also talked about the Vanguard. Now, also Blueprint as well. Now, we're moving on to the Daily Times to see what exactly is on the front page of the Daily Times today. We have the story of Simon Ekpa on page 8 this morning, saying that federal governments may apply for Simon Ekpa's extradition. That's on page 8. Meanwhile, on page 13. We see that 4 million Nigerians enroll into National Health Insurance Scheme. Also, the big story on Daily Times this morning says that Nigeria threatens reciprocity as U.S. cancels valid visas. And also, we see that NSA Kaduna government knock El-Rufai says he left states in ruins. That's on page 2. And on page 4, we see that bringing Obi back to PDP will destroy party, says Wike. That's as regards the 2027 presidency. And also on page 4, we see that diaspora remittance surged to 600 million monthly, fueled by CBN reforms. That is what Abike Dabiri Ewara is saying there. And also on page 5, we see that Indonesia approves 1.3 million scholarship for Mokwa to train 96. And finally, on page 13 of the Daily Times, we see that global demand leaves Nigeria non-export to 3.23 billion US dollars. I mean, this is very great news on the Daily Times this morning. I feel like every news here is almost like a win. And I'll start quickly with Nigerians all exports eating about 3.23 billion, and that is very, very interesting. And also it's good for foreign exchange. It's good, but I think one of the issues that we should also be looking at now is when we have to export things outside Nigeria, people should buy in naira and not just buying in dollars, so that will also help in bringing the money back to us, and also probably have a lift as regards the naira. But that's just on the side. And also, over the years, we've been very dependent on just oil for anything as regards income. And now it's very nice to see that particular theory. I think that was from Buhari's era now, where we talked about how to look at other sectors and not just rely on oil alone. And now we're seeing things like this happening, which is a very good one. Also, we see that 44 million Nigerians have enrolled into the National Health Scheme, which is very amazing. I mean, I'm a beneficiary of the NHIS or NHIA now, it's actually very good. It helps in saving cost of clinics. You just go for checkups. In fact, it even encourages you to go for checkups and things like that, because you're not going to be spending much again, unlike before. And on some drugs as well, you won't be paying a dime. So I mean, it's really good, and it would be nice if more people got on board. And also, it still has its problem, notwithstanding, because as regards the late delay of approval from HMOs and things like that, I feel like all of those things can be worked on as time goes by. But regardless, it's still good news. And as regards the aura for aura thing, as with Nigeria versus US, it is very interesting to see really, two countries going back and forth. US since January has been on a rampage of doing things,
especially when it comes to visas and Nigerian visas, especially.
I mean, just last week they also even tariff cost as well. Importing, stamp duties and things like that. They are just making it AY and all of that. It was first US versus China, and now the US is versus the world basically. But I feel like Nigeria shouldn't just. It's again, this is. We shouldn't pull a China here as well, because we don't have the kind of backing that China has in the recent sense. So we could just go as well and also negotiate with the US government before even going aura for aura in this particular battle. I feel like we should start from the negotiation phase before we go aura for aura.
I understand the fact that you are saying we should start from the negotiations page first. But if you look at the headlines, the previous headlines that have been coming, like you said, US have been on the matter of, especially Nigeria. Let me speak on Nigeria because that's my country. And US have been on their matter for a long time, reducing the time they spend in the US, revoking some visas, and beyond that, Nigeria has been going for peace talk. in fact, it was even going on Facebook. So many people were saying that, is it that our president is scared of the US president, or our president cannot speak out for us? Like, we've been begging for a long time. So at this point, I really do not, I do not blame the government for going aura for aura when it comes to this matter of visa. We've been going back and forth with the US government. The visa restriction, the visa cancellation, and all of that has been seriously a problem between the US government and the Nigerian government. I'm looking at the both countries. I said I'm speaking because it's my country. So if it's that aura for aura, at this point,
I still believe that, you know, the thing is that the US needs something, and they're trying to get everybody's attention. And what Trump wants is countries to come to the table and have a discussion. And that is what he wants. And if you've seen from when Trump assumed office in January, you've been seeing world leaders going to meet him at his table. I mean, we've seen African leaders as well.
African, some.
Some African, not all of them. And also even the Russia president was there, I think, a few months back as well. Maybe last month. I think last month. It was there last month also for discussion. So what Trump wants is that, okay, fine, the US has been giving out to countries over the years. Now it's time for you all to come, and it shouldn't just be a parasitic relationship, but rather a mutual beneficial relationship where I benefit from our relationship with you and also you benefit. He doesn't want it to be just one-sided, and that is what Trump wants. So, I mean, he wants the best for his citizens as well, and also we want the best for our citizens. So also, we should be open to negotiate, and moreover, by a small fish here when it comes to the US.
When it comes to meeting, he should gather all African leaders if you really want to speak on the matter. The last time,
it doesn't want something.
The last time we saw a gathering of some African leaders. Yeah. We saw will I say a case of, wow, you speak so well. Let's leave that aside. Now you gathered few African leaders. Yeah. And you expected that these few African leaders will talk about. Yes, I know you've been gathering them one by one. One, meet with this. He met with Tinubu also on that same, President Tinubu on that same note, and met with some African leaders after meeting with President Tinubu on behalf of Africa itself. Can we see him gather all? Let's know that we're coming to, if that's what you want, you have to gather everybody. Let's know that we're coming to a particular conclusion. And yes, we have been speaking on it, that Nigeria will go beyond getting and receiving aid from outside and also start giving it out. At least now we can say that when it comes to oil manufacturing and refinery, we have taken a foot strong in the roots.
We have refinery
when it comes to refinery, yes, and we believe that other things will still come out, like the sugar production and every other thing. We would be able to provide aid for other countries. But if you want to have a discussion, don't have a discussion with some people. Have a discussion with everybody. Yeah. Let it not look like you are trying to discuss halfway with one person, then you are now discussing with another person. Gather everybody. Let's talk about it.
But it's very hard to gather everybody, right?
Yes, it is, but it's possible. It's always hard to gather everybody, but it's always possible to do it. So we're moving into our tech news. We see that Japan Post Bank to launch digital yuan for 2026. This is a very amazing story for me. Not because of Japan itself, but because I've been looking at it from the African point of view and Nigeria as a whole. I think this is something that our former president, Muhammad Buhari was trying to push for, digital money and digital spending. Now we see that Japan Post Bank has announced plan to launch a digital yen known as DCJPY by the end of fiscal 2026. The initiative aimed to give its depositors easier access to digital transactions and reflect a growing shift towards blockchain technology in Japan's financial sector. We say that unlike the traditional coin, DCJPY will function as a token's deposit currency backed with 1:1 by flat yen, ensuring full transparency and security. Japan Post Bank, part owned by the Japanese government, said that this new system will provide an instant and efficient blockchain secured financial transaction for its customers. The fact that Japan is looking forward to the technology world, the technological world, and knowing that we would soon move to away from using fiscal money, and we'll start using currencies that has to do with that doesn't have to do with fiscal money. Now, like I said, the reason why I liked this story is because I was trying to relate it to Africa. Yes. And I think that was, like I said, our late president was trying to push, our late former president was trying to push on. And it's a good thing because it makes transaction easier. It beyond the cryptocurrency. Now, it makes transaction easier. It involves banks also. It involves every bank. So your transaction is being monitored, is being made easier. So the case, and also the case of cyber security, can also be monitored. You know, that's one of the reasons why they were trying to move cryptocurrency from Nigeria, because they felt like people were using that point to actually extort and commit cyber crimes, extorting money, the so-called Yahoo that we all know, using this cryptocurrency to do that. But when we have fiscal money, digital money, we would be able to trace every transaction done. Not just the government, but the banks themselves. Now, this is not just talking about central bank alone. We're talking about the UBA bank, the First Bank, every other bank under the central bank as a family. We'll be able to trace every transaction. So you'll be able to detail transaction to the person's name, where the person transacted this money from. So the whole cryptocurrency hiding will not be, or the whole problem, or the reason why we didn't want to take cryptocurrency serious.
Well, it's going to be very amazing to see, and I'm so.
I can't wait.
I really want to see how it play out, because I do understand that, you know, the reason why Inara couldn't go far is one thing that we don't know yet, actually.
Yes.
But one thing I should expect is the inclusion of the younger generation in things like this, because they prefer digital currencies, and also you're expecting to see transaction speed to be increased as well, because it's more reliable, it's more faster than the traditional banks. Also, it also makes liquidity very easy. You know, also it helps in meeting the global market, actually. But the only thing here is just that it should be very secured, and also it should also fit into the market appropriately, so that we don't have issues when it comes to that. And hopefully it helps their economy grow. I mean, Japan is one of those Asian countries that is probably in the future already. I mean, I was seeing a video sometime last month as well, before the announcement of the launch of the Nigerian town in Japan and other African countries. You know, there were robots in their restaurants, and those robots were not just robots.
Yes.
There was an human operating it back at home, and then these people were those that were disabled, those with terminal illnesses that couldn't leave the house, and so basically they could work from home and also earn a living, and also interact with real life people, not just be on a sick bed and dying alone and things like that. So it's even, because I actually saw one of the recordings of what someone was saying, and you know, she sounded happy doing her job, actually, and also it might even increase their lifespan, actually, because now they are
gives them opportunity to interact
not
with
just
life
live in their
itself,
sickness, actually, exactly. So it's really amazing to see, and I love that. I mean, I feel like Japan is the next place that we want to be, and maybe not the US. Okay, I guess I guess that's all we have this morning.
Okay, yes, that's all we have on our newspaper review for this morning. We've been looking into all our newspapers, like the Vanguard newspaper, the Punch newspaper, the Daily Times, the Blueprint, and as well our tech news on the new Japan currency. Sorry, will I say digital? Let me know. I always said digital ongoing currency. They've not been able to finalize it yet, but they are looking into it, and we see that Africa will be looking into it. Also, we believe that Africa will come to that point. We're already moving. We're already on that road.
Yeah, that's true. You made a statement that maybe we will not be using cash again after a while. Like I doubt. I feel like cash still has its play, but it might be reduced the way we use cash. Because I mean, the way we use cash now is not the same way we were using cash 20 years ago. So it might reduce to just petty, petty transactions and things like that.
As far as I'm concerned, as far as we're able to move from carries to cash. We can move from cash
to digital transfer.
to digital transfer.
Well, hopefully we get that in the future. But right now, I feel like maybe it should just be limited to petty transactions.
So use your cash when you can, Nigerians. Thank you very much. When it's gone. Thank you. So thank you very much for staying glued to your screen on our newspaper review. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms on Idea Television, and as well, stay glued to your screen continually because we're bringing you more innovative programs after now. I am Jacobs Deborah, and with me in the house was
Paul Olatuko. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much for watching.